It's finally happening. The Christian and conservative men, the real ones, are finally waking up and fighting back against the red pill garbage that has been seeping into right-wing circles for the past couple of years. And it's about time. Right-leaning women, me included, have been ringing the alarm on this and speaking out for quite some time. And we've been warning that allowing the victimhood mentality, the grievance culture, and the misogyny that is inherent in this movement and its grifter leaders to take hold on the right would sink the movement long term. And frustratingly, more often than not, we've been labeled feminist because that's somehow supposed to be a slur on the right. We've been called man haters, dramatic. We've been told it's just an online conversation, that it's not a big deal. Essentially, we've been told to sit down and shut up, even as our predictions and our warnings continue to come true. But finally, it seems like the men have grasped the severity of the problem and are joining us in pushing back on these losers and condemning their awful talking points. And I don't know why it was this particular event that seems to have turned the corner and convinced them to join us, but it's pleasant to watch no matter what. So let's debrief. First, I'm Hannah Cox with Base Politics. Welcome to my channel where I bring you my politically homeless takes on politics and culture. Before we get started, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you've not already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss one of my episodes. So the turning point happened when Benny Johnson, who's a well-known and very followed MAGA grifter, decided to host Andrew Tate on his show for a favorable interview alongside Trump appointee Alina Habba. And I want to be clear when I use the term grifter, because I see this get thrown a lot by idiots online who basically just think it applies to any person who has a following that they don't like, which is not really grasping the actual definition of the word. A grifter is somebody who is just out to make money in the political sector. They will say anything in order to grow their audience, in order to stay in popularity with that audience. They will rarely push back against members of their own tribe. You will often see them switch their positions based on whatever is popular at a given point in time, because again, all they actually care about is getting more followers, getting more clicks, or getting more money. They don't typically have a strong ideological bent, at least not one that's principled. They'll regularly shift their ideas. They'll change their focal points. They'll sell out things that they previously stood for. Like, this is how you know a grifter. There are plenty of people who are in media or who are in politics that you might not like, but the people that are actual grifters can be marked by these traits. Whereas people who are just saying things you don't like, particularly when those people tend to be principled and consistent over time and hold themselves to an actual ideology, to an actual end goal they are trying to seek in politics, whether or not it happens to be popular or personally expedient for their own profit at a given point in time, you might not like them, but that's not a grifter, okay? That's kind of the opposite. Benny is, by every sense of the word, a grifter. And you can tell by just how much he, as a proclaimed Christian conservative, is outright simping for Andrew Tate in this interview, right alongside Alina Habba.
Andrew Tate, top G from the podium.
From the podium, yeah, because I'm basically de facto the Prime Minister of the UK currently.
This is the seal of the UK government? Is that in front of
It's the seal of the Bruv Party.
This is
Britain restoring underlying values. So that's my seal and that's my party, and we're going to take control of the UK government and save it from the decimation that it's currently facing.
I got to tell you, Andrew, this is a first for our program, and we love the podium look. It's very official. And we look forward to getting into your politics.
It's a disgrace what they're doing. You know, obviously, I don't know the facts of your case, but I know that it probably wouldn't be happening if you were not yourself. And that's very similar to my client. And just
I'm sorry, not knowing the facts of his case is honestly inexcusable, particularly when you're going on a show to claim that the cases shouldn't or wouldn't exist if not for him being a prominent person. She even goes so far as to tie Trump's cases to his. And I want to say, I'm not a Trump fan. You know, if you watch the show, I will cheer him on when he does something right. I often think he does a lot of stupid things. But when it comes to the cases against Trump, most of them actually were bogus. Most of them actually were pursued by political enemies. They were pursued over things that would never have seen the light of day in a courtroom. The only one that I thought had any actual legs to stand on was the Georgia case, because Trump absolutely did try to meddle in the election here in 2020 and tried to pressure the Secretary of State to make up votes. So there was a credible case there for them to pursue, but then the Georgia prosecutors were idiots, super left wing, way overcharged it and blew that case. But the vast majority of the cases against Trump were bogus. And if you don't think so, then you're probably pretty tribalistic, pretty mentally bent by the party system, because they didn't have a lot of actual merit or weight to them. But now you have a legal appointee of Trump's coming on air and tying the very serious, very credible, very heinous cases that Andrew Tate stands accused of to Trump's. If I were Trump, I would not be able to fire this bimbo fast enough. Can you imagine having a legal appointee tie your cases to Andrew Tate's? Trump should be fuming. Tate has been very credibly accused by multiple victims of trafficking, of sexual abuse, of organized crime, and of exploitation. And he's an unabashed producer of porn. He openly brags about this online. He and his brother, to this day, remain under house arrest in Romania, awaiting next steps and pending charges over some of these accusations. And there are also civil cases alleging rape that are preparing to move forward in England. And not only are these charges against him credible, he has openly bragged about abusing women and much of this misconduct on camera.
And I think I get this from my job. So when I'll say pimping because it was webcam, but it was essentially what it was. When I was pimping, you'd pick up a girl, but if you get a high value asset, like a girl, because that's what a beautiful woman is. A beautiful woman's a high value asset. It's like having a Ferrari. You walk down the street with a beautiful woman, it's like driving a Lambo. Everyone's staring at you. So if you pick up a high value asset, in the pimp game, you need to learn how to control her and retain her. You need to make her do as you say, and you have to keep her. And you have to keep her regardless, in spite of the fact that you cheat, you're busy, you take all her money, you make her do something she doesn't want to do, and she still has to stay with you. So to me, that's what the game was.
They didn't teach you in self-defense? Here's a little move. When I grab you by your neck and you start annoying me trying to resist, and I just, and then I grab you by your neck again. Then what the fuck are you doing? Your face is collapsed and your fucking cheekbone's broken. You ain't gonna do shit but cry.
I guarantee I changed the way you look at sex forever. You're gonna be crying. I won't cry. I bet you cry, bitch. I bet you cry. You're saying I wouldn't cry. You're challenging me to a fight. You're saying I can't hurt you. You're out your mind? I don't even have to fight you. Forget the sex part. That's a distraction. My dick can stay in my pants. I'll just start beating the shit out of you. How about that? We walk in the bedroom. I start kicking your ass. No sex. No sex involved. But you cry then.
I perfected this in pimp school. When I got my PhD, we had to practice if a girl comes at you, you cheater, you're cheating. It's bang out the machete, boom in her face, and then grip her up by the neck. Like, shut up, bitch. Panties get wet. The machete's on the floor, her panties are all wet. And you go, fuck. That's how it goes. Slap, slap, grab, choke, shut up, bitch. Sex. These are the basic moves of pimping.
So yeah, the audacity of this moron to come on air and basically try to make Andrew Tate into some kind of a martyr and tie his reputation, his cases to Trump's. I don't know how she still has a job. I don't know how. That is crazy. But what was so great to see as they tried to push this disgusting interview across Twitter, finally we saw a impressive number of Christian and conservative people speaking out, particularly men. Like I said, it's not been uncommon to see women from these backgrounds speaking out and calling Tate out and calling out his degeneracy. We have been saying things when other prominent conservatives, quote, quote, like Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens brought this degenerate on their platforms and also favorably interviewed him. But we were not joined at that point in time, both in numbers and in the male population, in trying to push back on this for what it is. And I just want to show you some of these comments that were circulating on Twitter. This guy said, there's not much of a difference between supporting Andrew Tate and supporting Jeffrey Epstein or the UK grooming gangs. He's absolutely correct in that. I don't know how you can, with a straight face, claim to be concerned about kids being groomed, claim to be concerned about these kinds of sexual predators, and then look people in the face and tell them that Andrew Tate's not that bad, that he's just been maligned, that this is something that people shouldn't be concerned about, that women are just turning this into a big deal online, that you haven't personally seen it, so you don't think it's a big deal. It makes no sense. I can't take anybody credible, okay? If you're claiming that you care about grooming and you're talking all day and night about some people doing drag shows and yet you're giving this a pass, I don't think you actually care about protecting kids or protecting women from sexual exploitation or grooming. I think you're just a bigot. This guy Nathan said, wow, this video has really got around. It's important to highlight, out of the 10 women formerly accusing Andrew Tate of sexual crimes, they have claimed they were strangled by him without consent. There is a clear pattern of women from different countries who have never met for over a decade describing the exact same pattern of brutal violence by Andrew Tate against them, and these are just the women who have decided to come forward. He also tweeted another video of Andrew Tate and said, this is quoting Tate, "I've legitimately done that. Girls start running their mouth. I beat the F out of them. The fact is, this scumbag with his deep hatred for women is influencing young men and being celebrated by, quote, conservatives like Benny Johnson, and it's deeply troubling. No matter what Tate says, he'll always be nothing more than a pimp." Yes, he is a pimp. Okay, like that's not even in question. Again, he brags about this online. So all of these like red pill right-wing dudes who want to whine about women being on OnlyFans or say that porn should be banned, and they're so upset about hookup culture and like just the way that the sexual revolution has overtaken society, and yet they have no problem with an actual pimp. Things are not adding up. I can't even excuse it with saying you're not very logical. Like, you have to be stupid to hold those positions simultaneously. This guy also said, disgusting. Donald Trump's counselor to the president, Alina Habba, tells Tate that she is a big fan. She compares him to Trump. Andrew Tate is a rapist, a human trafficker, and a scammer. If you don't know this, then you are incompetent. If you do, then you are evil. I also saw James Lindsay, who's a prominent conservative, sharing a lot of this information about Andrew Tate. And one thing I thought was really interesting is all of a sudden there was like this backlash for other conservatives, right-wing people who have been associating with Andrew Tate or platforming him for some time, even though they didn't get the like backlash they should have in the moment. So this was recirculating. Someone was sharing pictures of Mike Cernovich and Andrew Tate and said that they went way back. He was at Tate's parties in his 40s, the same parties that are known to have had 16-year-olds there. James Lindsay shared that among other things. It was good to see him speak out. And what was so interesting is as this backlash was like really revving up, Andrew Tate just kept like digging his own hole. He was going in spaces, trying to like do his typical defense of just saying like, all of this is made up. I'm just being martyred. They're just after me because they don't like what I have to say, and was getting countered and checked by all of these guys who were coming with actual receipts. It was amazing. He kept like logging off and running away and then like blocking people. So funny. So beta. But then he was also responding to people on Twitter who were posting many of these receipts with things like this: hello Jew, like just being openly anti-Semitic. And again, these positions of being right-wing and supporting Israel and pushing back on anti-Semitism, particularly on the left, and then still continuing to support this guy who is openly anti-Semitic, just does not vibe, does not make any sense. Dustin Grage said, I am once again reminding everyone to not platform Andrew Tate as an ally of the right. Dr. David Wood also shared a video that went pretty explicitly into some of the crimes that Andrew Tate is accused of and said, choking a woman with one hand while beating her senseless with the other. Is this why Andrew Tate is a hero to Benny Johnson, Alina Habba, and Candace Owens? Ed Krasenstein, who also has a very large following, spoke out and said, imagine being so weak that you look up to Andrew Tate. He was sharing clips. The thing that I love about this is everybody was just like hanging Andrew Tate with his own words. They were just actually posting videos, either documenting actual transcripts of charges he has faced and accusations he's faced, or they have just blatantly been reposting him in his own words. Nathan said, find someone who looks at you the same way Tucker Carlson looks at his favorite child groomer, Andrew Tate. And he reposted a clip of Tucker Carlson showing up and like groveling, being so excited to meet Andrew Tate and interview him on his show a few months ago. Allie Beth Stuckey, who's a prominent, very right-wing Christian commentator, said this may come as a shock, but Britain's problem of Islamic rape gangs isn't going to be solved by electing a Muslim pimp as prime minister. She's referring to the fact that Andrew Tate claims to be running for prime minister in England. It's just a giant joke. He's such a clown. But anyways, that's what she's referring to. And then lastly, John Burke said, feisty conservative women pushing back against Tate and his ilk are great to watch. The well-to-do motherly women turn into teeth-bearing mongooses against the snake Tates. And he's not wrong, but again, it's just unfortunate that it's women who have been having to lead this charge and pushing back against this. And now it's good that we're finally being joined by the men. It makes a difference. I've been saying this on the show for some time. We need real men, real conservatives, real men who believe in liberty, real Christians, to rise up and actually be in their masculinity and push back on this growth in misogyny and just anti-human trash that we see rising up in society that's unfortunately increasingly finding a home on the right. But as women pointed out in his comments, like, they've been doing this, and yes, they will continue to, but they've often done it at somewhat great personal cost. You know, the Tates have been known to actually sue their victims. They frequently threaten to sue others who just simply post the truth about them, thanks to our court system being so litigious and just structured terribly. Even if you haven't done something wrong, someone can still take up your time, take up your money by filing frivolous lawsuits against you. So these are serious threats that people have had to face in order to push back. Carrie Sloan, who's a great Second Amendment advocate for women, she said, that's why I think it's funny how so many conservative men want to silence women. When women get mad, all hell breaks loose and shit gets done. I could rant about this for days. Resistance Chick said, I don't know how many are aware, but up until recently, it was lonely territory speaking out against the Tates. His army would come after you. He literally just threatened a sex trafficking victim that he would sue her for calling him a rapist. So the poor girl had to take her post down. And like, they are accurate. And this is why I have said for some time, women are the real protectors in society right now. And they're also typically the actual moral leaders. And I don't want it to be that way. I don't think most women want it to be that way. But that has been the lived experience that women have dealt with for the past couple of decades, because men have fallen behind in these traits that they claim to be inherently associated with masculinity. And yet it has been women that are stepping into those roles. Now, what do you do if you are a MAGA grifter and you think that you are putting out red meat propaganda that your audience is going to love and lap up and you're going to make lots of money off of by being edgy, and all of a sudden you find that they've woken up and turned against you? Do you admit that you're wrong? Do you admit that you've been platforming somebody who goes against absolutely everything you profess to believe in? No, of course not. You instead cry Christianity, hide behind Bible verses, claim that you're being censored and that people are attacking your free speech. That's what you do, and that's exactly what Benny did. Like, seriously, he was such a little bitch about this. He was like, they're trying to deplatform me, and literally nobody was trying to deplatform him. People were just saying, you probably shouldn't follow this guy. You probably shouldn't listen to him. He's a grifter. He's an intellectual lightweight. He has no principles. He has no morals. You will know them by who they associate with. Look at who he's choosing to bring on. And again, it's not like he brought him on to his platform to grill him or to actually do a very serious journalistic interview. No, he brought him on there in favorable circumstances to prop him up. So it's laughable to say that people are trying to like cancel him or take away his free speech. No, you're getting justly criticized for being an idiot and for being obtuse and for being morally bankrupt. And he was joined by other grifters like Russell Brand, who tried to come in and defend him.
Someone like Andrew Tate, with the audience he has, could make a significant difference if correctly backed. He does say some stuff that's pretty out there. But the fact is, in a democracy, if someone is able to glean popular support, they can have a mandate. They should be represented. I suppose what's more significant and interesting to me is the way that figures like Andrew Tate or Tommy Robinson have always been maligned, I think, to place an impassable threshold around systems of influence and power. You can have your own views of Andrew Tate. You might think he's misogynistic or vulgar, but the fact is he appeals to a lot of people and he represents some things that a lot of people are very interested in.
Now, Russell Brand also meets all of the marks of a grifter. He's been trying to grift on right-wing circles for quite some time, since the COVID era, and he's found some success there. But I love to see, again, prominent, true Christian conservative men also finally recognizing him for what he is and dunking on him in response to this video. Clara Lehman said, right-wing influencers are a lot like porn actors, increasingly going to extremes to rouse their audiences. Boy, if that is not the truth. Seth Dillon of the Babylon Bee said, instead of questioning the judgment of Tate's supporters, he's calling on the critics to stand down. This is moral madness. Joel Berry, I think also of the Babylon Bee, said, if enough good men are discussing these important ideas, we won't need bad men like Tate to do it. The vibe shift has changed things. More people than ever have been emboldened to stand up and speak truth. Tate is obsolete, or soon will be. And then Russell Brand got community noted, which is just, I don't know, chef's kiss for this. It says, context, Tate has been charged for sex acts with a minor. She was only 15. He was caught bribing her to lie to the police for him. Russell Brand is under criminal investigation for sex offenses, including rape, including against a 16-year-old school child. Again, like tends to attract like. Here's Benny doing the typical grift of people who are under fire, trying to hide behind Christianity. He posted, "Good morning, Christ is King." Somebody quote tweeted him and said, "People saying or doing something stupid or that upsets a lot of people and then saying Christ is King to deflect is so weird." I agree. I said the only thing worse than a Christian grifter is how naive so many Christians are who consistently fall for this grift. And guys, oh my God, I could wax poetic about this for literally an hour as a pastor's kid who has grown up entrenched in Southern Baptist Inc. my entire life. This is one of the top critiques I have of Christianity. Like, so many people in this circle have also a victim complex. They just want to be like recognized by other people. They want people who are popular, who are famous to associate with them. And that is why you will literally see them simping for like whatever DEF list celebrity throws a bone their way and says that they're Christian. They are just so desperate for that recognition and to feel like they're at the cool kids table. It's quite pathetic. And really, if you actually understand Christianity, you understand that you will typically be on the outsides of society. You often won't be popular. You often will have to go against the grain. Jesus says people will hate you due to me. Like, they will hate you for no reason, even, especially when you are living the way you're instructed to live. But instead, American Christians tend to feel that they should be like put on a platform and never criticized and just want to like be pat on the head constantly. And they tend to fall for people like Benny so easily. It's pathetic. The Bible says you will know them by their fruits. Okay. You will know them by the fruits of the Spirit. It's very easy to measure people and their conduct and to see how they behave and who they associate with and what grieves them, right? Like what actually turns them off, turns their stomach. Because when you're truly a Christian, real sin really bothers you. It's not a small thing. People who are just obsessed with a small number of sins, typically things like sex outside of marriage or people being gay, and they don't care about any of the other actual really serious grave sins, they're not typically Christians. They're just people who are using organized religion as an excuse to hate on people that they dislike, as an excuse to feel better about themselves, to feel self-righteous and look down on others. You cannot be a Christian and look at the behavior of Andrew Tate and give that a pass. I'm sorry, it doesn't pass the sniff test at all. If you are truly saved, if you really are following Jesus, you would be disgusted by his abhorrent behavior and treatment of people. He kept going too. He posted another Bible verse that said, "He is who without sin cast the first stone," which is completely taken out of context. And he got community noted for this. Somebody said it's an amazing accomplishment to quote a Bible verse and still get community noted. But the community note is spot on. It says, Jesus said this when forgiving a woman about to be stoned for adultery, but called for repentance, saying, "Go and sin no more." Andrew Tate has never expressed any repentance. Recently, he also refused to accept a woman's apology for comments she made about him, and that's referring to him threatening to sue a victim. So, Benny, get out of here. You were such a loser, and this is so embarrassing. I loved this Babylon Bee headline, has a picture of him and says, "Man who constantly calls people snowflakes, deeply offended by slightest criticism for hosting known rapist and woman abuser." And I saw Benny Johnson's wife also pathetically trying to like stick up for her husband, which is like, oh gosh, man. I mean, I am so glad I waited till I was a little bit older in life to marry and to be like really sure, because I'm never going to have to go online and make excuses for my trash husband like this. Like, this is so embarrassing. She said, "Since they are calling for my husband to be deplatformed," no, they're not. "I'll say this, Tate is not someone I follow, respect, or care to be associated with, but I have seen over the last few years where he has had numerous interviews basically trying to say like he's sorry, he converted to Islam. He converted to Islam. He moved to a Muslim country and converted to Islam because that area and that sector of that religion are very fine with abusing women. Let's be so serious." And secondarily, she says she doesn't want to be associated with him, not familiar with him, but she's been following his content over the years. Like, lady, shut up. This guy quote tweeted her and said, "I'm sorry, but this is not going to cut it." The wife of Benny Johnson is claiming because Tate went from atheist to Islam and denied all wrongdoing over role play, he gets a pass, trying to equate someone who lived a life of sin and had a genuine come to Jesus and this dude who very recently is trashing women and showing zero remorse is a false equivalency and some gaslighting BS. Do better and tell your husband to do the same because he's an embarrassment to the real MAGA movement. Chris Lash, who is the husband of Dana Lash, said, "Rebuking sinful behavior is biblical. Rebuking sin is biblical. Rebuking sinful behavior and evil men is literally not casting stones. Rebuking sinful behavior is also not judging someone. God judges them in the end, but we will know them by their fruits. We have discernment." Well said, Chris. I saw this meme online I thought was perfect, highlighting Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and MAGA's focus on them, and then Andrew Tate's crimes in the dark sitting right next to them. I just think that's so indicative of where this movement has been, and that's why it's not been a very serious movement, because it's not been consistent, it's not been ideologically principled, and it's caused many people to not want to associate it with it whatsoever. And there are multiple reasons why I've had issues with the MAGA movement. A lot of them come down to their policies that I think are economically illiterate, but when it comes to their social agenda, like this whole issue sums it up so perfectly. Like, I cannot take you seriously when you have this kind of laser focus on one person's crimes and then totally excuse and associate with another person whose crimes look pretty similar. As Yasmin put it on Twitter, the way this app is filled with people condemning British Pakistani rapists while simultaneously propping up a balding American British rapist is giving me a migraine. Another person said, Candace Owens, quote, porn is terrible. The Jews created the porn industry. Also Candace Owens. Platforms and defends known rapist, human trafficker, and serial pornographer Andrew Tate. These deranged lunatic Jew haters' lack of basic logic will never cease to amaze me. Yes, that's true, but also I think it's even deeper than that. The right has such a big grifter problem. And if the right doesn't grow some wisdom, get some discernment, really start to shift away from these kinds of people, learn to tell who is just using you for clicks and money, who thinks you're stupid and is just playing on you, and who is actually principled, not only are you going to continue to turn people off, but you're not going to get anything done. Because the more that you allow people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and Andrew Tate to be the faces of your movement, I don't care if they have millions of followers online. The thing people don't tend to understand when they've never actually worked in politics is that millions of followers online does not equate to getting things done. Nobody wants to associate with these wackadoodles in DC. Nobody cares what these people have to say about policy. Everybody's kind of trying to keep them at arm's length distance. They don't want to upset their hive audiences, but also they don't really have any credibility. Their word doesn't carry any weight in the circles that matter. So if you want your movement and your agenda to be able to actually get public policy accomplished, which is what actually changes how your day-to-day life goes, then you've got to get rid of these people, okay? They are completely sinking your reputation and your movement and your agenda. And I just have to go back to the grooming thing real fast. I saw this person post this. It says, Andrew Tate is trying to groom children with coloring books. That's right. This loser has coloring books for children for sale on Amazon, ages 4 to 8 years old. And they say this is disgusting and Amazon is selling it. Coloring books to children of a human trafficking rapist. Are you serious? The coloring page says pimpin' hose degrees showing women on it for kids. This is grooming. I just can't take you seriously ever again when you want to talk about dangers to kids or people coming in and trying to groom kids or push sexual issues on kids. This is it 101, okay? I've yet to see a trans person doing anything close to what this nasty, degenerate human has been doing in broad daylight for years now. As Abby Libby said on Twitter, if you wouldn't let Andrew Tate near your daughters, why would you let him influence your sons? And I just think this hits so heavily because people, especially on the right, constantly are talking about how society's failing boys, society's failing men. You're failing your sons if you're not policing what they're watching online and you're letting them get sucked in to these awful online swamps led by grifters like Andrew Tate. It just blows my mind the number of people, particularly men, who have tried to tell me that this is not a big deal, that this is something I should shut up about, that it's not what should get my focus. I think you're daft. I think you're not cut out for leadership. I think you don't understand how the world works. I think you shouldn't be in charge of children if you truly believe that. I saw that Benny Johnson has daughters, and it literally almost made me cry. I can't fathom having a father who was okay with somebody like Andrew Tate, the way he speaks about women having daughters. People need to be concerned for what comes next for their kids. And if you let boys get sucked into this mentality, if you say this not a big deal, if you allow it to continue to converge into right-wing politics, not only are you setting your sons up for failure, but you're setting your daughters up for failure too, because they're the ones that are going to have to try to date and marry amongst this pool of men. Like, what is wrong with you to excuse this? I saw this guy on Twitter say that he doesn't buy the argument that Andrew Tate exists because conservatives aren't offering a compelling vision of masculinity. Tate exists because many young men on the right are possessed by the same self-pity demon that is gobbled up by young women on the left. He meant on the left. He clarified that in the comments. You're entitled to whatever you want. You're a victim if the world doesn't validate you. Your failures are always someone else's fault. You're right to be angry at those who get in the way of your own happiness. It's all the same. I've said the same thing, right? I had a whole video about this, about how the red pill movement is the exact same thing as fourth wave feminism. One's packaged for men, one's packaged for women. They're both for losers. It's a loser mentality. He says you could have 100 hyper masculine guys with YouTube channels espousing true conservatism and godly patriarchy. It wouldn't do much to diminish Tate's appeal because he has a completely different audience composed of losers who want to be told that they're good without actually being good. Thank you. I can't even tell you how much it means to women to see real men rising up and speaking out. It doesn't take that much. It just takes a little courage. It takes a little vision. It takes some wisdom. But come on, like, this has been allowed to continue for far too long. So I'll just echo what Reese said here. She wrote, shout out to the conservative men out there pushing back against Tate and his ilk. These men are the true sheepdogs baring their teeth to these wolves, and I am here for it. This is actual peak alpha behavior. And it is. Real alphas get rid of bad men in society. Real alphas come in and protect the people who are more weak or vulnerable than they are. And I love this caricature of Andrew Tate because it really does look just like him. This is not a man. This is certainly not an alpha man. This is a lowlife loser thug who needs to be sent to the streets. All right, guys, I hope you like this episode. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you've not already. And if you want even more content, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok.